All right, we're recording everywhere. He did. Oh yeah. A little coffee today. I am inspired. Yep, that's it. That's the one right there. That feels good. Chair dancing competition, y'all. Come on, do it with me. All right. Well, that's a good time. I mean, at least I smile like a moron, well, regularly, but every single time I hear that song. Some wonderful people that were a big part of my life, known as Freedom Community, greeted me one morning with that song after a night of debauchery and good times, and it's still very near and dear to my heart. Got to see one of them actually this past weekend, my buddy Wes. And yeah, anyway, welcome to the I Speak Good podcast, y'all. It is episode 2. I am super pumped that we've made it all the way to the second episode. If you know anything about me, getting started is the hardest part. And now, ever since the last week's episode or the last episode we recorded, I am inspired. And I am ready to go. And I've got some more room in my life to be able to go with. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Today's show is all about the hustle and how real it is right now. And a lot of the changes that are happening in my life. And then after that, we're going to catch up with none other than Brad Richards, VP of Design and Creative Director of Motorcycles for Harley-Davidson Motor Company. Really excited to pick his brain about art and design and the passion of motorcycles and whatever else comes up in conversation. He's a really rad guy. We've gotten to ride together a few times, and yeah, I think I can call him friend now. So welcome to a show about me hanging out with my friends. And of course, we're going to wrap it up with the ISG Hotline calls, and there are some great ones. Thanks everyone ahead of time for contributing in that way. And a couple of them we're actually going to use in the interview with Brad. So a little bit of a teaser, and then we'll cut straight to the ending segment. So let's go to the very beginning, which is the best place to start. So yeah, lots of change in my life. The hustle is real. What do I mean by the hustle is real? Well, I just got back from 2 different motorcycle shows. February 1st in the US, at least, it really starts the motorcycle event season. Whether you're here, there, or somewhere in between, there's a motorcycle something going on around the first weekend of February, if not late January. And then it's off to the races till November. You'll have a couple of rays of sunshine throughout the wintertime, but for the most part, that's build time. That's when you're inside doing other stuff, driving vehicles with doors on them, with windows you can roll up and heaters you can turn on. So I'm really excited. I'm so full of energy, so full of just happiness because I just got to hang out in Denver, Colorado at the Colorado Motorcycle Expo, where I was working with Rider Justice. I've been very close with them for years. Sabine, my girlfriend, and I got to fly out. She's the HBIC and event marketing for them, and I was helping run their podcast, which was a great time. Lots of good stories. Got to meet some really rad people that I did not know before, and I used to live in Denver, so anytime I get to go back, I'm stoked. Even got to go see JJ Gray at the Mission Ballroom. Holy cow, what a beautiful venue. The venue is amazing. JJ Gray holds a special place in Sabine and I's heart because some of our songs are sang by him. So the whole night was just full of dancing, full of awesome. We were so happy. It was really 2 blocks away from the hotel that we were staying at. So we didn't even have to exhaust ourselves in the middle of an event weekend to go do something personal. And it was rad. And thank you so much, Tyler Campo and the family over there at the Mission Ballroom for making that happen. We were the 2 people that got VIP wristbands that were too busy having fun in general admission to care. But thanks for the wristbands anyway. So yeah, then right from there, I didn't even go home. Sabine went home. And then I moved on to Vegas, where I spent a few days helping my homie Magic Mike get his exhibit at the One Moto Show, Las Vegas, set up, bikes moved, skirts stapled to stands for motorcycles to be on, lighting fixed, like just whatever he needed. And I was one of a few people that was there to just lend a helping hand. One of my favorite things to do is help. And I feel like if more people felt that way, things would not only be easier, but a lot more enjoyable. So if you know that someone can use some help nearby, go help them. I mean, if you see someone's car die in the middle of the street, put your hazards on, go push the car for them, like help them out. We can all have a really, good time or at least positive effect on each other doing stuff like that. Just simple things. And it was just really good to get to make a couple of new friends, but also get to reconnect with some people that I love and I respect and I've been able to get close to over the years. And by the time AIM Expo started, which was why I actually went to Vegas, the whole motorcycle family, I feel like, got to town. I feel like it's like a pre-Mama Tried with all of the Wisconsinites that were there. And it was just really great. So like, why is someone like me going to AIM Expo? Well, recently I made the decision to be an independent. So I said goodbye to Sawicki Speed and I said hello to I Speak Good and leading into my own business and my own brand and building my own universe and empire around, the things I'm passionate about, the things I want to work on and work towards. So I needed to go do some selling. No better place to do that in the motorcycle industry than the AIM Expo. It's the beginning of the year. It's all business to business. A lot of really great handshakes happened out there. A lot of good conversations are already happening because of it. I've got some more content that I'm going to get to share with SP Connect, phone mounts that also charge, that there's several different ways to wire them in. Like, your phone is such a big part of your life. You need to make sure you've got a quality case on it with a quality connection whenever you ride so that it doesn't, die on your route and take away from your experience. And there's some really good products out there. SP Connect is one of them. I'm excited to learn about this product and do some installs and do some videos and be looking for that on a new YouTube show called Dump Truck Approved, where that's exactly what I do. I'll go ride a motorcycle and I'll talk about the helmet. I'll talk about the gloves. I'll talk about the motorcycle itself. Just a bit of real information from a dude that really rides motorcycles. I'm also focusing on I Speak Good as a podcast, as you've known, and really good news there. Now that I have more time, I am going to be producing 2 podcast episodes a month. I didn't expect to grow that quickly, but the response has been absolutely wonderful. And thank you so much, everybody. Like, really, thank you. Y'all been saying some real nice stuff. And I'm glad that, the conversation I had just with myself was entertaining enough to make you look forward to episode 2. And so I'm going to do 2 a month now. We're going to put them out there. And again, it's not going to be just a motorcycle podcast. Or no, wait, that's not the right way to say it. It's not going to be a podcast focused on motorcycles. But there will be people from all over the motorcycle world that will be a part of this show. It's going to be very interview heavy. From time to time, it'll be a solo show. But for the most part, I'll have a guest on with me. And yeah, and I'm also going to continue to MC. I'm not really focusing on going on tour. That being said, if someone wants to take me on tour, the math is right. On tour I go. But I'm really excited to continue to be able to nurture that connection to the motorcycle community that I have as one of the MCs in this wonderful industry. And I'm able to lean into some of my brand partnerships as well. I'm going to continue to work with Dennis Kirk in the social media aspect of life, and really excited to announce that I now have my very first sponsor. Guys, we did it. We got sponsored. Dead or Alive Coffee. The reason that I already have the coffee cup in my hand, even though they haven't even had time to ship me any samples, is because we worked together before. We've been really great friends for years now. And the relationship starts actually at the 110 anniversary of Harley-Davidson at the museum. My buddy Mike owns the company. We met there. And we have stayed in touch. And you go to their website. I'm actually on there from a shoot that we did years and years ago. So there's a link in my bio. If I remember on YouTube, I'll put a link down below. That's my affiliate link. If you want to buy anything, I do get a kickback. It helps support the show. And if you want 15% off, just put dump truck at checkout. Dump truck is one word, not actually a truck. I'm a man. So yeah, really, really exciting. Thank you so much, Dead or Alive Coffee, for keeping me awake enough to produce this podcast. It is a super premium brand with strong coffee made for strong people. I don't think that that's their tagline. That's just how I feel about it. If you want some great coffee in your life, it's actually their espresso beans. So, like, they're ready. You don't need to put anything in it other than, I don't know, your finger or something. Don't do it when it's hot. You burn yourself. That's bad. But get yourself some Dead or Alive coffee. Support the show and enjoy every damn sip. Or, I don't know, give it to a friend. If you have friends. If you don't drink coffee, do you have friends? I'm not sure how that works. Oh, I'm sure someone's feelings got stepped on or something there. They'll get over it. It's fine. It's totally fine. Everything's fine. So that's what's going on in my life around me. The events have begun. I am full on plugging away, moving forward, rocking my own program. Really excited about it. And oh man, how was I going to leave this out? Not only am I focusing on the media side of things, my voice work and all that kind of stuff, but I'm also a partner in Urban Works Speed Shop. Our coming out party is going to be at Mama Tried Show. We will have a booth there. My partner Corey Smith and I worked together in recent past. And now we've got a 3-axis CNC machine and the ability to design and prototype and create marketing plans for companies that would like to have their own products live out in the world. So if you are in the prototyping need, or maybe even small run parts, we're not doing big runs. We only have one machine now. But we are open to small parts runs and, of course, prototyping and design services. If you come with a drawing, we can clean that up and finish the prototyping process as well. So wherever you are in the step of that process, and it doesn't have to be motorcycle parts. You never know. There's a tool that you might have thought of or come up with the idea. Let's take you all the way through it. Urban Works Speed Shop. You can find us at urbanworkspeedshop.com. And then reach out to us and we'll be able to come back with an estimate or any of those other things. So yeah, I'm going to be talking a whole lot more as a career, but I'm also staying connected to the manufacturing side of my life. And that is a lot for me to be excited about. So yeah, that. And why don't we get to the meat of it? All right, y'all. I am really excited to be sitting down right now with not only someone I look up to, but also someone I've ridden with, whose work I enjoy, and who I am learning to enjoy as a person. So, without further ado, the one and only Brad Richards with a huge
Wow.
VP title behind his name from Harley-Davidson.
Hey, thanks for having me. Super stoked to have this time with you, Dump Truck. Never enough time. I always enjoy my time hanging with you at the shows and talking to you. You've got fantastic energy, and I love that stuff. And yeah, so happy to be here.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it. And that goes the same direction right back at you.
thanks, man.
And we'll get to hang out a little bit in Milwaukee here in a couple of weeks at the Mama Tried show. I'm
Yeah.
assuming you're going to be there.
Unfortunately, not.
What?
I know. It's the first time since the very first one, because I was actually invited to the first one.
Oh, no
Actually,
way. Well,
that
you've
bike
been disinvited then.
that bike right there, that's Sporty TT, was at the very first Mama Tried. But this, unfortunately, we're launching the new Softails the same exact weekend in Austin, Texas. So I'm going to be in Austin, Texas, riding Harley-Davidsons, but unfortunately not in Milwaukee for
That's okay.
the
Just make
party.
sure you get some brisket and everything
Yeah,
will be all right in the world.
I will. It's gonna
Texas
be,
is the only
yeah,
place I go to eat brisket. Like, I don't even really eat red meat anymore. I have it whenever it's like special occasion type stuff.
yeah.
Texas and brisket, like, they're almost spelled the same.
I agree. I love Texas. My wife's from Texas. We live right next to Texas, and we're there a lot. So yeah, whenever we can go, we definitely. Her family's still there, so we do spend time eating that fantastic Texas cuisine.
Yes, there's a lot of it. Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Detroit, Michigan.
Nice. Well, and
Yeah,
that's also really close to your professional roots.
yeah,
When did your life and motorcycles intersect? Have they always been a thing in your life, or is it something that you learned on your own?
yeah. I mean, they've always been around, and I didn't have a father who rode or anything like that. Um,
Same, me neither.
my mom dated a guy with a Sportster. I found out years later that she whispered in my ear when I was taking her first spin on my Road King.
That's awesome.
She told me not to tell my dad, and she's like, "But oh, I love the Sportster." Anyway, so no, I mean, I had two-wheeled, motorcycles well, really mopeds and stuff like that, just because I had paper routes. I've told this story before, but my dad had me working as soon as I walked out of the hospital, felt like. So I had like multiple paper routes, and the only way to get them done before school every morning at 4:30 in the morning was to have two wheels with the motor. And in the wintertime, we bought a three-wheeler to get me through the snow.
Because
So
that's safe.
yeah, right.
Here, kid,
Uh,
go. What's the worst that can happen?
yeah. Oh my God. It's a different situation now. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so
It definitely is.
they're always there. But dirt bikes, I had friends with dirt bikes. You know, we couldn't afford one, but there were a couple in the neighborhood, and I would jump on when I could and take a spin. But the Harley-Davidson first registered. My parents were school teachers, and we drove every winter, like a lot of people in that part of the country in the Midwest. We go down to Florida for spring break.
That's a long drive.
Yeah, and
Worth it, though, I bet.
it was yeah, because it's 10 below in Detroit,
You.
and it's 80 in St. Petersburg, Florida. So anyway, we were in Atlanta in a traffic jam, and all of a sudden, I heard this like crazy noise and racket, and we were in a dead stop, and all of a sudden it was a gang. I mean, they had cuts. I don't remember who it was, but there probably 30 of them went by on both sides of our car, and
That's a moment.
Yep. And I know a lot of people have had a similar moment. I mean, I've heard about this before, but it happened, it was sort of it was a club splitting lanes, surrounding our car, just putzing through, didn't do anything, they just rode by, and it was like, holy smokes, like, what was that? And that was it. I was instantly interested in, like, how do you live like that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up
How long
in
did it take you to figure out how to live like that?
Not, when God, I was into cars majorly, and because my neighborhood was really sort of like, there were a lot of hot rods and muscle cars and customs in our neighborhood, so that was sort of a thing. There weren't too many bikes, and so we were into like building model kits and like racing AFX, magnet traction slot cars.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got into the bigger slot cars because there was still a track that was, that was open and running, and that got consumed with that. But it was, I think I was in college, and I was in college, and a friend of mine who was a really talented designer, still is, and he had a Kawasaki H1, and he cut it down and made it a bobber.
Oh, nice.
So it was like, it had clip-ons, the tail was cut down, and I just remember it just was so obnoxiously fast and loud. And I did a little research, and I found out how deadly those motorcycles were, which made it even cooler. That he was like riding it and like.
I feel like that's a proper response.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and I could dive.
Yeah.
Can I have two of them?
And I remember it was the motorcycle made an impression, but so did my friend. His name was Aku, and he made an impression because he was also a very stylish guy, and he was cool, and he was like the cool guy in school, and he had this bike, and he would ride up to the front of the college, and everyone would come down to hear this thing, and he would I remember he wore like jeans, and then he would take cowboy boots and cut the shank off the boot, and so it was like a slip-on cowboy boot.
Right on.
And he rode this thing like without a helmet, and he was and he I know he got away from the cops a couple times, and he was a hooligan. So
he was just helping him train, just keeping the guys on their toes from the real criminals show up.
Right. So I was like, oh, motorcycles. I was kind of like triangulating all these things, they're super functional. The whole incident in Atlanta when I was a kid with the club, and then my friend here, and then I'm like, okay, bikes are cool. So I started hanging out with Aku, and we found a kind of a gnarly old BMW, 1955 BMW 500cc horizontally opposed twin that was rotting away in a warehouse where this band that I was in Aku with, we used to rehearse, and this thing was rotting away upstairs, and we kind of got it out of there, and I restored it. And I realized, and I had done a lot of things with cars at that point. It took a few years, but I was racing vintage cars and road racing and stuff like that with my dad. And
that's cool.
But the first ride on that anemic little BMW that couldn't get out of its own way was like more thrilling than any sports car or hot rod I'd ever been in, or,
Isn't that wild?
it's like you're going 25 miles an hour and you might as well be going 250 miles an hour.
It's the
It's
most
just,
exhilarating
yeah,
25 miles an hour
yeah.
you could ever go.
So that was it. It was just like, okay, no more cars. Like this is I'm a motorcycle guy. And then, I used to have to keep this thing, I would just do oil changes myself on this thing. They're pretty reliable, those old BMWs. And
Oh, yeah.
only place I could get 60 weight oil was from the local Harley shop. And so I was there one day and I was buying oil, and this older woman came up to me. She wasn't that old. I mean, now she's probably in her 40s, but this was years and years and years ago. She was an older woman to me. She said, "Hey, my husband is dying of cancer. He's a bike collector. He would love to see your old BMW. He has one just like it. Would you come? Would you come right now and like see him?" And just he would be so thrilled to know somebody in their early 20s was riding. And I said, "Sure." And so I followed her home, and he opened up this big pole barn garage, and there was a collection, probably 40, 50 motorcycles. And
Whoa.
he's in a wheelchair, and he's like, "Hey, let me take you around. I'll show you my collection." And so we're kind of going through, and he collected every make. He was just into bikes.
Just in the bike, period. I
Yeah.
love that. That's the way to live.
Yeah. And then he got to a 47 knucklehead, and I was like, "Well, what's that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's a Harley-Davidson knucklehead." And I'm like, "Well, I don't see that at the dealership." And he's like, "Well, no, they don't make these anymore." And then that was really it. That's when I'm like, okay, the BMW never was ridden again. And I bought a 39 ULH, and just hooked on Harley-Davidson from that point forward for so many different reasons. That's kind of how it happened.
And like it's I personally would think that there's a big advantage when you get to the point in your professional career to where now you are a major driving force, if not the managing director over what looks cool on a modern Harley Davidson and all of that, and like having your inspiration come from a knucklehead. Like that is one of the most sought after, one of the sexiest looking motorcycles, and one of the most historically impactful motorcycles that Harley Davidson's like ever built. Um, Getting right into the design part of it, how do you like personally define art in the context of motorcycle design? Because you're not just an auto or motorcycle designer, you're an artist at heart.
Yeah, I mean, technically, it's industrial design. That's what it says on my degree from art school. And there are a lot of people that have this degree, and they used to be called stylists. So
Right.
automobile stylists or motorcycle stylists or aviation stylists. So and now it's sort of design is what it's known for. And excuse me, it's known as. In fact, I think there's probably some new vernacular I don't even know about. It's been a few years since I've been in school. But what was your question?
Like, how do you personally define like
Oh,
the art,
yeah,
the art perspective whenever you're looking at
yeah,
motorcycles? Like, what
yeah.
makes it art to you?
So the thing, well, there's a few things. What's so cool about motorcycles is, and a lot of these things sound redundant. There's that whole aspect of freedom, which is really true. My father was a history teacher and was in love with the Wild West, and so that there's a connection to the horse and the motorcycle for me personally.
Right.
And I've lived with horses too, and it resonates no matter what it goes both ways. It's really interesting, and um, but it's self-expression, and that's what's really interesting to me is that you create a shape of a fuel tank or the silhouette of a motorcycle or a wheel design, or maybe it's the cylinder head design, and by some magical formula, there's something in the way that it looks and is shaped and the proportions and the colors that inside you just make you want to ride and be a motorcyclist. And just so it's the idea that engineering is really about sort of function and safety and performance, and industrial design is really about getting emotions to fire off in somebody such that they go into a dealership and they say, "I've got to have that motorcycle and I'm going to buy it no matter what." And that's what really is fascinating to me is just the way we as humans express ourselves in different ways, whether it's music, whether it's dancing or painting as an artist or designing things like motorcycles and cars, or maybe you're a chef or whatever. You like this idea of like someone expressing their take on the best of whatever you're kind of focusing on and what really kind of unlocks those emotions. That to me is the art. That's where the art lies, in my opinion. It's very intangible,
Yeah, it's I would say it's transcendent, right? So
and
it
that's it.
literally will
Yep.
take you somewhere. I've had
Yeah.
meals that have done that.
Yeah.
Thinking about a motorcycle, I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
smell the, spring coming up, although I'm sitting in my living room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think all of those art forms really do that for a lot of us. I mean, we're
Yeah.
either running from something or running to something whenever we're choosing whatever vinyl to throw on the turntable next,
Right. Right.
or whatever scenario like you were talking about. I mean, the food is a big one too for me.
Yeah.
Whenever I have a meal that's like intelligently prepared
Yeah.
to like really go, we're gonna start you here, and then you're gonna end up in Oaxaca,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and totally, if you have not, people at home, if you have not had a meal that does that for you, it's time to start looking for it because
Yeah.
they exist, and like that really is a lot of what art in general does for me as a person. Is it takes you somewhere, and it's yeah,
100%.
and the great thing about it is anytime you want to go visit wherever it takes you, Brad, you just got to go over to the knucklehead,
Yeah.
kick the baby over,
That's right.
and twist the throttle, and you're right back where you left off.
That's 100% right. And I mean, you perfectly described dump truck with saying transcendence. I'm gonna turning my all my phones off so that we get a
Get in
nice.
airplane mode, bro.
I'm doing it right now. There we go. You described it perfectly because it is transcendence, and I think people have a hard time articulating what it is. It's like when we would go to market research at Ford Motor Company when I was a truck designer there, and I did F-150s, and
Yeah, the aluminum body, right?
yeah, I did a bunch, and then the Raptor, and anyway, so but we would go to market research, and you would say to somebody, okay, so we're going to describe some things. Tell us what you like and what you don't like, and you'd say like I would say, thick billet like grill with masculine headlamps, big headlamps, and they would say, no, I don't like that. My truck today has these headlamps and I don't want billet. And then I say, okay. And then we walk them into a room and unveil an F-250 with a big frickin' billet grill and headlamp. And they would be like, I want that, so, well, people have a hard time articulating what it is. And I think that's part of the job of the designer is to try to understand what they really want and what's really pushing those buttons to transcendence and then commercialize it. And so
what
yeah.
what do you think is most important when focusing on what the future customer wants? Like, well, what is it that you're going? How do you get in their head, basically?
Well, with Harley-Davidson, we, thank goodness we have, going on 125 years in business.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned the knucklehead. I think that's sort of ground zero for us in terms of when we really found the right formula. I mean, there were some fantastic bikes before the knucklehead. We were around for a long time before that. So, but the knucklehead really kind of put everything together. There was beautiful styling, and the engine was gorgeous, and there was a certain what's the right word? Finesse to everything and sophistication, just the right amount of like mechanical beauty, packaged with, beautiful sensual forms and incredible paint, and beautiful paint jobs too.
Are you flirting with me right now? I got lost there for a minute because it sounds romantic.
That's my job. So that like, that is something that we pay attention to at Harley. We have this past, and we have to make sure that everything we design at least has some kind of a logical link to the past. Even the Pan America, which I've talked ad nauseum about, with people just on the design of that one. But I can tell you right now that I can connect it to all those bikes, and maybe you can't off the top of your head looking at it, but I think in the back of your mind, the things that we did, like you're registering this stuff and saying, oh, that's a Harley-Davidson.
Yeah.
Even if you can't like say these are the three things that make it a Harley-Davidson.
Yeah, but
I can. Yeah. Right.
Well, it's that marriage between staying connected to your history and while continuing to innovate is one hell of a balancing act.
Yeah.
And especially in the last, I would say 5-ish years, I feel like Harley has been leaning very hard on the innovation, but they definitely have not lost their connection to their history. Like, is that one of the most important topics of conversation as the design continues?
Yeah, I mean, internally, we have a lot of very, intelligent, passionate folks who have their own kind of opinions on what needs to happen next with the product. And we've created forums where I get to hear their points of view, they get to hear my points of view, and we come to agreements on what we're going to do. And but that is the most important thing. And what's tricky is, we have shareholders that we're trying to satisfy. And so there's an internal customer that I'm trying to satisfy,
Sure.
which is folks on the inside who are running a company like Yokin and so on. Although they give me, I'm blessed with their trust, so that's not so much a problem. But the other internal customer that is absolutely as important as any other are the dealers, and they have a certain point of view where things need to go. And then of course there's the external customers, which are the customers themselves, right? They have a point of view as well. And each one of these, this is sort of like you're on a train. At the first station is sort of your concept sketch. The last station is like getting into the hands of the customer, and there's a bunch of stops along the way. And each one you have to be successful in convincing people that this is the right path. And it can get difficult because we're very, we're a somewhat conservative company in that we do stick to our heritage so much. So when you do push things, sometimes you get resistance from surprising places. And I may have executives or a board of directors who are saying, push it further, like do this or try this, and we have to say, okay, I'll hear you and I will, but we also have to do it in a way that's going to make sense to the dealers, to our customers, so that we don't, if you lose the red thread from 1903 to today, if somehow that gets disconnected, we're really in deep trouble. And so it is sort of, it's part of the responsibility of the design team, and there's a brand team that we're pretty tight with, that we make sure that every step we make is not diluting the brand, but actually strengthening it and making it make more sense to people.
What do you think one of the most obvious ways that Harley Davidson has done just that to strengthen the brand in these last few years?
Well, I would say Lowrider S and Lowrider ST
Oh
are
yeah, I think
probably,
that's on the nose.
those are probably the two big ones. That was the first bike I did when I came, I had my 10-year anniversary, I found out last week, but
Hey,
that was,
congratulations!
yeah, thank you. I came on board, and there was the new Softail line that was being introduced in 18, and there was just before that in 16 and 16 and a half, we did a half model year that year. There was a need for a quick to market Softail that would sell us a certain amount of units and could be made with parts we basically had on the shelf.
Right,
So it was just like, it was a dream first couple of weeks for me at the company, because usually, bikes take years to do.
right, yeah.
Now we had one that was going to happen in the matter of like a year, and it was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. I can set the tone, I can do all these things, and I can work with my new team and see, how they're going to do, and et cetera, et cetera. So we came up with this Lowrider S, which was just like a performance. Yeah, it was an FXR, basically a performance Softail. And did a couple sketches, built a mock-up. People swarmed around it whenever we rolled it out, and we just knew that we had a winner, And it's not rocket science, because even Willie told me when I came on board, he had already exited the company a few years before, but I had some time with him, and he said, just look for the low-hanging fruit, man. He's like, don't try to reinvent the wheel. He's like, our biggest hits. He's like, my biggest hits, and as Willie, he's like the Street Glide, the Fat Boy. Those were all things that had been done out there. Like the customers had kind of been doing a version of it, and we just took it and sort of polished it and changed it and made it as good as we could, and then made a whole bunch of them and sold them to everybody. And so that was his advice to me. And this bike was sort of perfectly aligns with that narrative, because we saw everybody out on the West Coast building bikes like this. Like all of my chopper friends were all of a sudden, looking for FXRs and FXRTs, and I'm like, oh, this is happening. Now the trick, this is always the case, is when we do have to work as a design team, we have to work 5-6 years out ahead of everybody, and so there were some folks that were just like, they saw that bike and they didn't really get it. They're like, well, wait, it's just a lowrider with a black lowrider, and I'm like, no, it's and we had to do mood boards, and we showed videos of like, the parking lot at Born Free at that time.
Right, yeah.
So we did our research, and then it got to the point where they didn't have a choice. It was like either this motorcycle or no motorcycle. So we kind of held them hostage a little bit in a good way, and then the bike came to market, and it was a huge hit. And the thing that everyone gets caught up on that motorcycle is that in 18 the whole new Softail line came out, and we didn't have a Lowrider S. It's because that Softail line was actually done before we even started the 16.5 Lowrider S.
You were catching up on an already existing launch. Wow. I
So
mean, of course they had to listen to you, bike or no bike. It's not even up to you. It's up to Father Time. It's like we're out of it. So
right,
either they're gonna dig it or we're
yeah.
gonna talk about this one time.
So but we knew that we had a hit. So as you know, and we knew we weren't going to hit 18 with it. So we had to go back, and we even had Lowrider ST kind of coming along at that time too. And it was like they weren't even, we hadn't even agreed to do Lowrider S, the second one, the Softail version. The Dyna was the first one. I'm getting all that mixed
I
up.
got you. Yeah, silver black paint, red lettering.
Yeah. So we we even had the ST, and it was like, well, we don't know if that's going to be a thing. And I was like, that is going to be it's already a thing. Like let's just. And so finally, I think some people traveled out west with us, and they saw everything happening, and they're like, yeah, okay, this makes sense. Let's do it. Yeah, and it turns out, it's our best selling Softail. So and so now, but to your point about how do you keep it fresh, and we got to move the needle. So now we're looking at, all right, where are we going to go next with this motorcycle? And that's what we do with every bike. And some bikes, it's like, oh, there's a very clear path. Other motorcycles, it's like, well, let's give this one a break for a little while and put it on the shelf for a moment and let it have a great moment in the future and focus those resources on something else.
Well, I have to agree with the Lowrider S and the ST, and it's almost like, and I mean, my FXR is under a cover getting rained on right now. So whenever you say it's like the new FXR, I mean, for those that don't know, it's a big statement because you're connected to the chopper world, because they're cool, they're older, they're carbureted, but you're connected to the performance side of things as well with the agility of that frame. If I'm
Right.
correct, it was the first square neck frame that was manufactured by Harley, which is what gave it a lot of its performance aspect. It was
Yeah.
designed specifically for performance, and I
Yeah.
have to agree because that new saw that the Lowrider S and ST feel exactly like that. It feels intuitive, and it was been really interesting to watch that platform come through, especially once it kicked over to the M8 side of things.
Mhm.
And people loved it. Obviously, as you said, it's like the most popular Softail brand that's sold right now. But when the fairing came out, when the ST came out, I feel like there was a level of awareness that went up like a
Yeah.
whole. I don't know what the numbers would be on that as far as like
Right.
popularity, sales, and all that kind of stuff. But I
Mhm.
feel like when everyone went and saw things like Born Free and like how the trends are currently happening, and when they answered with that fairing, it was like, wait, as a customer, like we were really, really excited that they were listening, that you
Yep.
were listening.
Yeah.
We felt very seen in a great way
That's
because,
awesome.
in a lot of ways, it's like, the fat tire fad and the big wheels and all that kind of stuff. A lot of those seemed like late to the game whenever they were compared to like the current timeline of the trend.
Yeah.
And as of late, with the way performance has come into the scene,
Mhm.
it's I mean, it's invigorating. And then when you go towards the CVO
Yeah.
Road Glide ST,
ST.
and it's
Yeah.
like, wow, man, talk about being current events. Like one minute you're on the racetrack and you can actually go buy something that performs in a similar way from the
Yeah.
dealership
Yeah.
right out the gate now. And that has to be exciting for you as a designer to see that history and innovation are meeting up in a way that excites people on a massive level.
I mean, yeah, we're thrilled, and I think we hit the performance trend. Probably, I think we hit. Yeah, yeah. I'm picky, but we might have been
Good.
a year, maybe a year or two late. I mean, I would have loved to have been moving since 16.5 with Lowrider S and ST, because imagine where we'd be right now. Because all
Well,
these
yeah, but
things.
like you were
Yeah.
saying, you've got those conversations to
Yeah.
regularly sell people on,
Yeah.
and the amount of time it takes to
Yeah.
design tips
Yeah.
to toenails is a
Yeah.
years long process. So
It's
I feel it's
incredible.
super understandable. And
Yeah.
so let's stick to the Softail lineup. There are some new upgrades to the Softail. There's
Yep.
three different tunes that are available now, basically, right? You got some hand
Yeah.
control updates, and
Yep.
the ST's got more power now.
Yeah, so first of all, we, the one of the things that's challenging about designing or selling motorcycles is this constant bump up in the powertrain, right? For a few cubic inches every season gets, eventually you're gonna start, designing a new powertrain is very expensive. So you have to like really you have to make a long, steady evolution and use of all that investment to make Milwaukee 8. So we want it to live as long as we can. It's a fucking great motor. It's a great
Yes, it
motor.
is.
And I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. I love the way it sounds. So we said, well,
I love the way it responds to aftermarket.
right. We kind of, we were kicking around the idea of like Fender guitar amps. That's something I threw on the table and just said, like you have a twin reverb that has a certain tonality to it and a purpose. You have a deluxe reverb that's breaks up a certain way at a low volume that's really sexy and sounds delicious, and you have like a champ or a pro, and it's all kind of the same bits, but it gives you like a different feel and like and personality. And like, why don't we make motor? Why don't we do that with the motors? Like, it's can we make them feel different? So if we have a custom, if we have a breakout or we have a fat boy, can that motor be specifically tuned experientially, right? So this is like what we experience, like look, sound, and feel,
Right. Yeah.
um, specific to that motorcycle. And then can it be different than the Heritage, which is a classic customer? They want something a little bit different. And then can that be different from a Street Bob? And so that's exactly what engineering was able to achieve. Is they, our team, they're so good. They figured out how to make that all happen with tuning and exhaust and intake and engine mapping and so on. So yeah, so this year we have these three great different powertrains depending on which motorcycle you get. I think it's classic, custom, or performance. And then, yeah, you're right. Loretta S and ST gets a bump, and we get the 2-in-1 exhaust and some things that we've been wanting for a long time. So really, it's an exciting moment for the Softail line. And then, of course, you said ride modes, new controls. There's a bunch of, there's other things. They feel a little bit different, which, like I said, that was intentional because we want each of them to feel very unique.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I like how they come catered to, like, you think about the experience with, the
And
classics and the heritage versions of that motorcycle.
yeah.
It's going to be a different style of ride, and that makes all the sense in the world.
Right.
One question I have is most of that in the ECU, is it most a tunability issue to say maybe you got a classic and
Mhm.
you wanted to do something more performance with it? Would you be able to take like an ST map and flash it that way or do something similar?
It's a combination of things. I'm way out of my depth here. I'm not an engineer. I'm a designer. So there's some folks at the company that might cringe if they're listening to this, but
I won't tell this.
at a high level, it's a suite of parts that really makes each one unique. And I'm not sure if just simply changing the engine mapping is really what unlocks the different personalities. You might get a little bit of that, but it's really, it's a sum of the parts, right? So that's the way that we approached it.
I dig it. I very much do. So you're talking about like all of the brain fart. These are the most convenient portions of podcasting. So you're talking about engine mapping and all of that, and like that just instantly makes me think of technology and how quickly and it is advancing and has been advancing over the last, 6 months, if you want to get down to it. We have a crazy amount of advancements, but in the modern digital age, you, like me, remember dial tones, and you probably owned a pager. I owned a pager. The smaller the pager was supposed to be the cooler the pager. So I had one
Yeah.
that was like,
I wasn't cool enough to have a pager. I
oh
never got
wow.
there. I never got.
I didn't say anyone called it, but I had one. But like, and all that is just to say, I don't know if your education started in more of an analog speed and then had to adjust to the digital world.
Mhm.
But even right now, if you start in digital, all of that world is changing. So like, how have
Oh yeah.
things like CAD and SolidWorks and AI and
Oh yeah.
VR, how has that been affecting your world of design?
It's to be honest, it's made a lot of things easier, especially the digital sculpting and the computer aided industrial design is a huge enabler, and it unlocks efficiencies, shortens time to market. It's a little bit easier as the technology becomes a little easier for a designer to actually utilize. That means the idea that a designer may have on my team is going to be more pure once it gets to engineering, because it hasn't gone through three hands to get there. The designer can actually craft it and shape it himself or herself inside the computer. So that's been a huge unlock. I mean, we're you're using AI in certain ways, not so much to design the motorcycles just yet, but there are. I've heard that at design schools, it's causing a huge problem, because one of the main skills that I learned was how to render, how to draw a beautiful automobile or a motorcycle, and
Right. Yeah.
express your idea. Here's what the Lowrider ST needs to look like, and here's this beautiful sketch. And now there are programs where designers can, students can just take little scribbles and scan them in, and then ask for this background, this color, and it spits out this beautiful man-made looking rendering, not a photograph, but that actually looks like a sketch somebody did.
Huh.
And so that's, there's two camps. One camp's like, well, that's bullshit. Like,
It hits me weird.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, that's not, kind of like, it's not fair. Like, I had to learn and do all this, and there's all these nuances, and it's more human when you're sketching.
It started with synapses and went through my actual fingertips. Like,
exactly. But there's another side that's like, yeah, but that designer now can spit out 12 more ideas in a day than the other person can sketching it by hand, which means we're going to get better solutions. So, all these things are, yeah, I'm not saying what side of the fence I'm on. I am an analog guy. I mean, I'll admit it. Anybody who knows me knows that. But I think there's definitely places in my space, in our industry, that technology is just revolutionized, and it's for the better. At Harley, our trick with the bikes is to make them as technologically advanced as we can, but make everything transparent. Like,
what do you mean by that?
Like, I think in the past we've stumbled by creating some bit of technology and then thinking that's really what the customers want. A Harley customer is a very unique customer. There's no other customer like a Harley-Davidson customer. It is so fun to design products for them, because they're purists in so many ways. And typical product design, and I don't mean motorcycle design, but when I was at Ford, if you had power windows or cruise control or ABS or blind spot monitoring or whatever, like, we would embrace that, and those truck customers dug it. They liked those things. But if you tried to transpose those technologies onto a motorcycle and think that these customers are going to line up for blind spot monitoring, they're not. A Harley customer isn't. There other makes maybe, but a Harley customer is about purity. It's about the essence of the vibration of the motor, the way the thing feels in your hands, the way it sounds, the way it looks. Like, look, sound, and feel is really, that's our sort of trifecta of character. That's our trilogy of character. And that's what we need to focus on. And if there are certain technologies that dilute that, then we really need to question why we're leaning into them. So again, when I say that there are certain technologies that we're all better for as motorcyclists, ABS, I mean, there's a list of things, but
I'll say it, hand warmers. I said it. I said it, guys. Hand warmers. You can ride so much more without crying in public with something like hand warmers. Okay.
Yeah, it's true.
Take my man card. I don't care. Like,
and a heated seat. I'm telling you, man, that's growing up in the Midwest. That was a game changer.
Oh,
but
man,
anyway,
I can imagine.
we try to make this stuff transparent. We don't want to see wires and little black boxes all over the motorcycle. If we decide one day that we need this piece of technology to remain relevant and keep our customers safe, and it improves the experience for the customers in some way that we can justify, if it's not something that's visually pleasing, we have to be very clever in the way that we disguise it, so you don't notice it. So it's not the first thing that you notice. On a Harley-Davidson, the first thing you should notice is the powertrain. And you should fight every day. Like, my team, every day, we're trying to make sure that the powertrain doesn't get covered up with other stuff.
Right, yeah.
We don't like plastic. We don't like cables and wires. So, like, it's an art form, I think, the way that the engineering team and my team have been able to figure out how to do these things. And it makes our bikes very pure and very premium. And frankly, it makes them cost a little bit more because it's hard work to do. And, and we try to keep plastic off the motorcycles and things that don't look premium. And like all of this costs money when in today's world, most people are just spitting the whole motorcycle out in plastic, and it's like those customers don't care. But a Harley Davidson customer cares about this, and I love that about them. And so we're going to continue to make motorcycles that speak to that ethos.
Do you think that level of caring is going to continue with these future generations? Like, do you think that 50 years from now, people are going to be talking about art in motorcycles?
I think so. I do. I don't know that motorcycling is in a weird place right now, dump truck. I mean, culturally, we're in a weird space. People aren't, I think there are just as many people riding, but it's like, they're a little bit old. Like the younger generation really hasn't embraced it like our generation did. And I've heard from people that are in the skateboard business, it's the same thing. Skateboarding is not as popular as it was. And, there's a correlation between, what the needs of the generation are at that particular time and like what products are selling. And I think that we're in a space right now where it almost feels like we're in between waves a little bit. I do believe that there's going to be a generation that is going to just go crazy for motorcycles again, like we did. But, and I'm hoping that it's happening right now, but you don't know. I can't see into the future. And we certainly can, all the companies, major companies are suffering right now from it.
Yeah, I feel like if you create something, it's a tough time, like period, regardless
Right.
of what niche that you're in.
Right.
And with so much visual stimulation that we now
Yeah.
have with
Yeah.
smartphone, I mean, you can historically trace so many different branches of statistics on how that device has changed our society. It's wild. And everything is like fast. You're always scrolling. We accidentally get caught in death scrolls sometimes, as they say, where you're going, wait. 15 minutes just went by
Yeah.
and I literally didn't watch
That's right.
anything.
Right.
Um, I feel like that could be part of what is, keeping the interest a little bit lower than what we're used to with things like
Mhm.
outdoor sports, extreme sports, like things you have to get up and go do. Like no one, that motorcycle is just a sculpture until you start it. Excuse me. That motorcycle is just a sculpture until you start it and twist the throttle and go. But
Mhm.
so much of our lives are being spent in this short form
Mhm.
artistic download. It's not even art sometimes. Sometimes it's just filler.
Yeah.
What would you say for people that don't want to get caught into that? Like what is a piece of advice that you could tell someone? I mean, for me it's just go outside, but it can't be that simple, right? If it were that simple, people would already, be balancing their dopamine in a normal way.
Right.
But, we're
Right.
not right now. So what would you tell people?
I mean, go ride. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Go get outside. But I mean, I've never experienced anything besides maybe skateboarding and, that really puts you in the moment like riding a motorcycle does. This is this is cliched, right? We've all heard this a million times. Um, but it is true. Like it is instant Zen. It puts you right now in the moment. If you're not, you're going to get hurt, but you have
Yeah.
no choice. And, so I think when people do get a taste of it, they get, it is like it's like tapping into something they haven't tapped into before. And it feels very dramatic to them. And I've seen it with even taking friends of my wife's or friends of mine, for a ride on the bike or something. And they're just like, holy smokes, and you're like, yeah, this is what living is like. You should try it.
Like 25 miles an hour, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
best
Seriously.
thing you've
Yeah.
ever done.
Yeah. It is so true. You don't have to go fast either. That's
Isn't it
right.
weird how people just give you a look whenever you describe that very genuine notion of like, I can't explain it to you. You just need to go do it. And like, you won't have words for it either. And they
Yeah.
just go, yeah, oh, yeah, whatever, man. And it's like,
Right.
like
Yeah.
for real, life is not going to live itself for you. Like,
Yeah.
go say yes to some things. Um,
It
now,
is. It is. It's scary. You're right. I mean,
it is, but there are some positive things out there as well
Mhm.
with modern technology. The ability to communicate on a mass level,
Yeah.
with
It's
zero
true.
turnaround time.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
whenever you're designing or like whenever you're picking out paint schemes or
Mhm.
whatever it is that's in front, whenever you're getting ready to hit an easel,
Mhm.
um, do you think going, well, this will probably trend really well if it's shot this way through Instagram, through TikTok, because that is such a massive communicator? Does your brain go down to that detail level whenever you're looking
Uh,
at or thinking about concepts?
my brain goes to like when we design a new, like a new family of motorcycles, like we did with these new Softails. Um, the marketing team, and I'm really close with them, and they're a very talented group of folks. They'll say, hey, what do you think in terms of this motorcycle or this motorcycle? Where would you and the design team photograph this thing? Where does it make sense to you? Because they're trying to understand what the ethos of the bike is, which is great. And so we give them some tips. Like this bike should be, it should be 2 a.m. at a bar in Detroit or Milwaukee, and it's there's some red neon and it's just starting to rain, and that's where that bike needs to sit. This bike needs to be, Grand Teton National Park, daylight, beautiful back, So we'll do that kind of stuff, and sometimes they listen, and sometimes they have even better ideas that they bring to life, and so that's about as far as I go in terms of like thinking about technology. No, but I'll tell you one way that I did use it for the very first time is when I needed to hire a couple designers, and because business started to go in the right direction for us a few years ago, and we were hiring, and was having a hard time using the traditional methods to find industrial designers. So I just
Right.
put it on
Yeah.
I just put it on my Instagram, and my phone exploded, and we found some people, and we found 2 great designers. So that's awesome, that like you said, it was instantaneous. It was like within an hour I had like resumes. I'm like, this is great, So you're exactly right in that regard.
Well, it's really cool. One of the things, and touching on that, is
Yeah.
like the instant gratification you get through communicating that way.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time you spend with your own affiliates, the motor company's affiliates, like kind of educating them on the bikes and things like that. But
Yeah.
through those avenues, like you have like this core of megaphones that are
Mhm.
effective. Like I'm talking at the drop of the second you send a DM, they're going to go out there, they're going to create something, and you're going to have a turnaround like that. Now that is something super unique. To have any kind of media created for something
Yeah.
new,
Yeah.
or even just to feature something would take so much back talk, like behind the scenes, back and forth,
Mhm.
hiring all these crews and doing all of that stuff. Like what are the other advantages do you think that we can take as people, myself included, that are hell bent on exciting people about motorcycles? Like what's one of the
Mhm.
best uses of technology that you've seen so far?
Oh, I think just GoPros, man. Just beautiful roads, beautiful experiences. I love what a lot of the influencers and people that aren't just people that are just normal riders just started
Right.
capturing their moments that way is pretty impressive. I mean, it's pretty scary the quality and the level of art direction and so on that you're seeing on the phone with just some 18-year-old girl or 16-year-old girl from middle Iowa can pump out something as visually engaging as Hollywood. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been interesting to see like
Yeah.
how the consumer level of electronics have
Yeah.
changed the accessibility to create like cinematographic
Yeah.
like content pieces to like take extremely professional looking photography. I mean, I've definitely taken advantage of a lot of things. Like the type of cameras and microphones that I use now compared to what I used to try to use, it
Yeah.
makes me feel really old. And I'm not. I'm only 45, but things have
Right.
advanced just so quickly.
Yeah.
It's been hard to keep up with. Now,
Yes.
let's say it's you're in the middle of a monsoon.
Mm-hmm.
Knucklehead's not going to ride.
Yep.
You're in your creative space.
Mhm.
What is your favorite art to produce that's not a motorcycle?
Oh, I paint. I paint. Uh, like how do I describe it? It's sort of like the romantic West. So I think it's kind of deemed Southwestern art, but I try to turn it on its head a little bit and make it a little bit more pop. And I've always painted, but lately I've been doing a little bit more of it. I actually got my scholarship to design school because my mom was a painter, and we did some paintings, and that's another whole other story. But so
I mean, you're on a
yeah,
podcast. You could tell the story.
yeah, no, it's all right. And and music. I play music. I've always played music. And you go to art school, you need to be in a band. That's just like it's like
That's a
talk about a
rule.
cliche. Yeah. You need to be in a shitty punk band. And I was in a shitty punk band. And but that turned into some other stuff that the music got better and better, and we made some records, and we still make records together. This group of people that I grew up with, even when I was in my early 20s, and so yeah, I like to play guitar, and I like to paint, and I like to ride and build motorcycles. Yeah, when they're not running, I like to work on them, and I'm not one of these guys who can build something from the ground up. Like a lot of my friends are way more talented than I am.
It's intimidating.
I can, I do a pretty good job of putting all the bits together, and I know who to call for certain things. And then it's kind of like a totally painted. I like to get to a point where it's like a model kit that's totally painted and ready to be put back together, but it is all apart, and then you get to put it all together. That's the fun stuff for me. But
what are you building right now?
Well, that I told you that my first old Harley was that 39 big twin flathead, that 39 ULH, and that's on the bench right there. I'm going. It was a bobber. It's how I, in the early 2000s or whatever that's what I wanted to ride then. I'm turning it into a chopper right now. So that's, and then I have a 1947 Jeep CJ2.
Look at you, just right over your shoulder, just hiding some cool stuff.
Yeah, and that guy, all of a sudden, the one of the brake cylinders is leaking, so I got to do a brake job this weekend. So I'm ready to do that. I'll knock that out.
Well, that's pretty damn awesome. I have really enjoyed this conversation with you, Brad.
Yeah, and
it's been really cool and fun. I've been an artist most of my life. I mean, I did come up through music. I played music most of my life.
Do you paint and draw or something too? Do you do other stuff?
I did when I was younger, but once music happened, that's where most of my focus went, artistically, and then including like church. So it was like either I'm playing drums in school, I'm playing drums in church, or practicing to do one or the other.
That's awesome, dump track.
And I was really lucky to be a part of some really great programs. Like we were the number 6 drum line in the country when I was coming up through high school, and had some really great instruction from some of these DCI level percussionists. It was just still mind blowing.
Where'd you grow up, dump track?
Oh, well, I'm still working on that.
Where were you born?
I was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and I was brought up in South Louisiana until I was about 8. And I graduated high school out of Memphis with a stop in Texas in between.
Right. So that band stuff was a big deal down there, I'm guessing, right?
Well, band for me started in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started like 6th grade. I was singing. Apparently my voice used to be higher pitched. Who knew? And I haven't talked like Froggy from Little Rascals my whole life.
Yeah.
Just my adult life.
It's an asset, my friend. I love your voice.
Thank you very much. I have a lot of fun being able to use it for the forces of good and laughter and joy. And today, some insightful education on kind of like, where your brain's at and what it takes to bring these amazing motorcycles to life without forgetting where you came from. Yeah. And I'm going to miss you at Mama Tried Show.
I know.
And I'm probably going to hold it against you for the rest of our friendship.
It's okay.
But you're doing cool stuff though. It's not like you're like, yeah, well,
I know.
I've got to go to jury duty. Like, no, you're gonna go ride motorcycles.
I'm a huge fan of Scott and Warren and Jeremy. Those guys are, and the whole crew, their whole team is like, what a great group of dudes. And they put on a great gig. It's going to be awesome. By no means does it mean it's going to, that I'm not going because of any other reason. It just, I can't be in 2 places at once. And that, unfortunately, I have to be in Austin, Texas that weekend. But go have fun. We'll compare notes, and I'll be there next year. I promise. Are you going to Daytona? I'll be in Daytona.
I'm not going to Daytona as of right now, so right. I'm gonna chill on that one and keep my feet up a little bit. That's a wild one.
Yeah, it is a wild one. I just do the last couple days the race at the track for King of the Baggers, and
that's the best. Honestly, if I was going to choose, like, hey, I'm not work related, I'm going to Daytona Bike Week, it would be all around the speedway, like the King of the Baggers and Motive America and Super Hooligans. Like, if you're not into sport bikes, there's so many other reasons to go to that racetrack now, and it's really cool to feel like Harley-Davidson has a home there, and they belong there. American V-Twin in general, right?
What's killer is, in addition to King of the Baggers, right, with our Road Glide CVOST, and we've got some other really exciting things up our sleeve. Can't say anything else.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then in Super Hooligans, which with our Pan America ST, which is basically the first seed of our own hooligan, if you will, that I think that class is going to explode because there's so many different manufacturers that are going to be racing. So like from Triumph to Ducati to so it's going to be a really interesting class, and I love that Harley's out there competing at the like on a world stage in terms of with all those competitors. It's such a historic track and venue as Daytona Speedway. I mean, that is, that's sort of the birth of a lot of our racing success back in the day happened there, and you have the memorial down there on the beach, something everybody should see. If you don't know it's there. It's kind of hiding behind the Hilton, but that's a really cool thing. Once you've had a couple cocktails at the bar and you want to walk on the beach, go walk around that flat track, that Grand National Memorial, and that's pretty cool because that's covered with XRs and KRs and WRs. Love that.
RRs.
Anyway, yeah.
Bunch of pirates on motorcycles.
I'm going down a hole. But, yeah.
There you are. You're transcending, baby. You're transcending.
Yeah,
this is what motorcycles do. I mean, and this came full circle. This is what they do. They take you places, even if you're not physically traveling there.
I'm telling
everybody,
you,
do yourselves a favor. Go ride your motorcycle. If you don't have one, do whatever it takes to get one, and you can thank us later. Brad, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you, Dump Truck. And I just want to say thanks to everybody out there who's supported our brand for all these years. We would not be here without you. And, we're super stoked that you're on this journey with us. And we just hope that we make you proud.
Well, you're doing a damn good job. So keep it up. And that's all we got right now. And coming up here in just a second is everyone's favorite part of the show. It is time for the hotline. There's one of these that actually could be relevant to our conversation. So like we've talked about, young people coming up and some advice to give them. Yeah. And one of my buddies called into the show, and this relates to people coming up professionally and finding themselves as artists as the same way as it, relates to people that are just trying to come into their own as someone who loves motorcycles or wants to wear the badge, am I a biker?
Okay.
What's up, Dump Truck? This is Jared Weems from Weems Motor Co. I had a quick thought. I've always been a huge fan of the underdog, the guys that are building cool bikes in their backyard, in their shops, their garages, using Harbor Freight MIG welders, the young guys that coming up that's going to take over after all of us old guys get done with it. But the problem is a lot of these old guys look at these young guys and call them posers. They're building the Evo Sportsters with the lowbrow or the TC Bros kits and just trying to be a part of the group. And I never understood why these old guys give these guys so much hassle when they just, we were all there at one point. We were out getting our first bike, bolting on the accessories and, buying the helmets and just try to fit in. And, why are we giving these guys so much slack? They're just trying to be a part of it. Why are we gatekeeping? Why are we keeping these guys out? So my thought, posers. Are they posers? Or are they just newbies? Talk about it.
That's like that. That's a great question.
Right? It's really, super relevant.
Yeah, man, that's rad. I love that. You want me to take a swing at it?
Yeah, go for it. Hit the fence with it.
So I think whenever something, and you're right, this gets back to the internet now that I'm thinking about it, but whenever something becomes uber cool and it's something that other people want to, be a part of and become, biker, whatever that is, chopper, there's a certain set of folks that sort of set the trend and become sort of the cool folks doing it, and everyone else tries to emulate those people. And let's face it, that can bring a lot of people into the sport. And at some point you have to start somewhere, just like you said. We all started somewhere,
Yeah.
I can't MIG weld, I'll admit it. I'm not it, my skills are better used somewhere else. When I was in my early 20s and I discovered Harley-Davidson and I brought this flathead home, that flathead right there. And I was just like, oh man, what next? And I didn't really know anybody other than that guy. And I asked him, do you have any friends? And he's like, yeah, there's a couple, some older dudes that can help you out. And I reached out to them. And those guys, man, they took me under their wing, and they were so cool because I was a square, and I still am a square. But like I grew up in a house that didn't really even have a toolbox. I love my dad, but he was not somebody who was going to pick up a tool and fix the washer. So I had to develop those skills, and these guys helped me do it, and they brought me under their wing, and they showed me how to do it, and they didn't do it for me, but they said, "This is how you do it," and they'll stood over my shoulder and watch me do it, and there's so many people like that I know that are still out there, and so I don't think, as much as I agree with what he's saying, I've seen that. I don't think all the old timers are like that. But if someone's being like that, it's usually because they have an insecurity themselves with something, and at least that's what human behavior's taught me all these years. And just try to break through that and just realize that we're all doing the same thing. We're all part of the same club. We all want to ride. We're all on the same planet. It's like, I don't understand all this us versus them stuff. So, and thank God for the lowbrows and the Prisms and the Biltwells and and the 100 other companies that I'm not mentioning right now, because they are bringing motorcycling to a group of folks that maybe wouldn't be into it if they weren't able to kind of embrace DIY and just say, I'm gonna tell the world who I am through my motorcycle, and here's some parts I can do it with really easily, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the people's definition of a biker. Like, people get hung up on it, in my opinion, like way too much. Like, am I a biker? Yes, I do consider myself a biker. But
Mhm.
what does that mean? It's not a merit badge. I didn't like win a trophy. It's not because, I'm wearing a really nostalgic, which also means very tight in this scenario, Harley Davidson t-shirt.
You're looking good, man. It looks
Right, I
great.
mean, it's the lighting. I totally did that blue on purpose back there.
I
She
love
was
it.
just trying to live with the moment.
I love it.
But it's, I've always thought that people get too hung up on the fact that I got to be a biker this weekend. Well, if you're a dentist, just be a dentist who rides motorcycles. Like, it's
True.
fine. Like,
Yeah.
because to me, like, being a biker just means that there's not one corner of your life that doesn't lead back to motorcycles. And
Yeah.
I think you can agree that starts the first time you get turned on by one.
Yeah. 100%.
You
Yep.
know, I
It
mean,
gets in your blood, and that's it. Doesn't.
it does. For me, like Harley Davidson, like I wasn't allowed to do motorcycles. I learned how to ride motorcycles over at a friend's house after church on Sunday a few different times. And then later on, I made my own choices. But for me, it was that Dyna Wide Glide with the flame paint job on the tank. Like,
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
saw that, I was like, what? That
Yeah.
was also like, you got to remember Renegades on TV.
Yeah. That
I
was
mean,
80, 81, right? That's
yeah,
what that might.
Lorenzo Lamas.
Oh, that's right.
Super huge, super nice man.
I forgot
When
all about that show. You're
I
right.
ran into him
Oh
at the
man.
Buffalo Chip at Sturgis one year in the VIP pit. I just got off the microphone. I go down there and I'm hanging out with like whatever other knuckleheads that snuck into VIP that shouldn't be there. And I look to my left after getting hit in the mosh pit, and I look up, I look over, and it's like all shoulder. And I'm 6 foot, like I'm not small, I'm not big, but man, I do take up room. I just saw a shoulder and I looked up and I was like, man, he's hot.
He's a big boy.
He's a big dude and way better looking than everyone else here.
Uh,
But yeah, that was those were the times for me, and like I feel like at that moment it was like was when like my inner biker was awakened. And now for sure, even if it wasn't my job, I
yeah.
would be thinking about where this job I'm going to leads to more motorcycle parts, and that kind of that kind of person I think is a biker. Like, you don't have to sleep in the dirt. You can even cut your hair on a regular basis. You
I
don't have to
know.
have tattoos.
I
What?
know.
Oh, what? Say it ain't so, dump truck. How am I ever going to be cool? Well, if you're relying on those things, you're not. Uh, this just in.
That's right on the
So
money.
my advice to people is like, don't worry about the labels. Everybody loves those
Yeah.
damn things, and just like shed them off. Do you in all things. Don't ride motorcycles. Don't let people tell you that this is the kind of motorcycle you need. Because that person probably doesn't know what kind of motorcycle they need. And
Yeah.
they're going to start giving advice out. Like, just do you. And like for those young kids that are coming up, you'll have some naysayers here and there. The people that are just crotchety about, oh, them young folks don't know nothing. And that's the
Mhm.
person that,
Yeah.
like you were saying, has some insecurities themselves. And
Yeah.
sometimes they are gatekeeping. And they're actually, well, they make you feel like they're gatekeeping, but that insecurity tells me they don't have the level of knowledge that they tote around.
That's
So
right.
maybe you are hanging out in the wrong group. Maybe you need to go find some people that have more of an open arms
Yeah.
view on things, where if you
Yeah.
show interest, they share knowledge.
Yeah.
Find those people, find those apprenticeships, even. Like, you don't have to look for a career in automotive or motorcycles to get your hands dirty in the shop. You just got to be good at helping and
I
show
mean,
up on time.
I found that when you, especially with bikes, and it's with anything that you get into, if you're younger and sort of you're trying to establish some kind of an understanding of what you're trying to do. If you just show respect to the elders, 9 times out of 10, they are going to unlock the world for you. Just they want, if you're respectful and you're not, you're not being shitty about it, they're going to want to bring you along for the ride. And to your point, a gatekeeper is somebody you don't want information from anyway, because they
Right.
probably don't have the best information. And I think another point that's really interesting, and this kind of gets back into the arts, is what you said, just like embrace being a biker, however you feel fit, whatever that is. I think if you look at the people that really move the dial in motorcycle design or customization, or people that move the dial and got people to think differently in the art world or architecture and fashion and music, like it goes on and on and on. It's the people that didn't give a shit about the formula, whether either because financially they couldn't, or they didn't have the education, but they had the drive to do it, and they unlocked a whole new way of doing those things themselves that at first people probably laughed at, and then all of a sudden they become the people that everyone wants to emulate 10 years down the road, because those are the innovators.
Yeah, and like, for a lot of people, that they're hard to understand, because most of the things that they are known for doing or creating, whether it be architecture, fashion, just automotive design, motorcycle design, whatever it is, they took, I'm trying to get paid to do this, out of the equation, and it is simply like purely of them. And I feel like that is something that isn't necessarily missing overall, but there's a big chunk of it that I think is missing from it. Creating for the sake of creating, because it inspires you, not because of how it's going to be received or perceived,
It's
but
got to come
how
out.
it feels for you to share, because you can't hold on to it anymore. You got to let it out. Like,
Exactly right.
if you're trying to create some beautiful art out there, and like, I'm in the middle of doing it with this podcast, to be quite honest, the hardest part of this for me was to starting.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's it, because this is a very, it's honest, it's loose, it's easy, but it ain't.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
You
I get it,
know?
man. Yeah.
And I feel like if more of us were out there doing it because of what it did for us, like, I want to share these stories. I want to hear these stories and share them with people. I want to share some of my own, because I have made a bunch of really dumb decisions in life, and I've learned a lot of really beautiful lessons through them. And, this respect for older people, like, I hope I receive it, in my coming years, because I do want to help. I want to help, younger people, like, do it better than I did it, just through, shutting up, which is a big key of it, and listening to the story,
Right.
listening to the advice of these older people. And that's the respect that you can really give them. If you're looking for knowledge, don't come up with your own version of the story. Go seeking the story that you're trying to learn. And it's just, I don't know, we treat our elders differently than we used to. I feel like it's also why therapy exists in a major way, because we don't have that relationship with our elders that was, decades past, where you respected everything your elders said. If you had a problem, you went and talked to them, and at least the way it looks on TV, you don't feel judged when you're going and like asking a question. And now it's like, people don't want that. They'd rather Google it, or I already know what's up, instead of asking people that are around. Stop, smell the flowers, ask questions. If someone's older than you, think of a way to get a story out of them, and just sit there and enjoy the hell out of it, because there's so much that you don't know until you find out for yourself. And a lot of times that doesn't happen till later in life. So while you can, listen to the ones that actually know around you.
Great advice. It's really good advice. Well done.
And I'm hoping I can listen to it myself. Like, I have shutting up is really hard for me, turns out.
Oh man, you're doing
It's
a
a
good
thing.
job. Yeah.
I turned into a career. So, lean into your strengths, people. Talking too much apparently is mine.
I love that.
I know that I've got another one of these hotline phone calls. that I definitely want you to answer.
Let's do one more.
Yeah, some of my listeners, I would say most of them
Yeah.
are funny.
Okay.
Dump truck. Hey man, this is Luke out of St. Louis, Missouri.
Sounds like a party.
You're on a Harley on that IG. Long time listener, first time caller. Really loved the episode. Thought you nailed it. Looking forward to being on this ride with you and listening along. Haven't had a chance to meet you yet, but look forward to doing that at Mama Tried next month. But hey, got a real important question for you. I know a lot of people out there wondering the same thing. If you were a hot dog and you were starving, would you eat yourself? I know I would. Smother myself in brown mustard and relish. Boy, it'd be delicious. So, would you? Would you do it? Let us know, man. Everybody wants to know. See ya.
He may have asked me, but this is all you, Brad. I'll follow up.
Oh, I love bikers. I mean, that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And his Instagram is Banker on a Harley. That dude owns, like, he's not trying to be nothing else. That's
Right.
his biker, right? I'm a banker on a Harley. Moving on. Are you a hot dog and will you eat yourself?
I mean, I thought I got into Harley-Davidson for the motorcycles, but you find out quickly that you get in there for the people just as much as for the bikes. I mean,
Yeah.
right? The characters that we've met that are now our friends, that we're lucky enough to call our friends, the people that decided to live life on their own terms and, and kind of, and whether it's this guy or it's a friend of mine, I'm drawn to people that sort of broke out of the frame and decided to do things their own way, whether they were successful at all. Their day jobs doesn't concern me. It's how they choose to live their lives and have fun, man. Have a good time. And we're only here once, so you might as well have a good time. And a motorcycle is a great way to experience your time on this planet. And then you meet a bunch of friends like that guy who are just sort of like reminding you of what we're really
Of why we're here.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like you
100%.
said, I don't know him, but I'm very excited for the beer exchange that's going to happen when I meet him in Milwaukee.
I love that. It's awesome.
Well, so would you eat yourself?
I'm more like a taco burrito guy, but maybe.
Well, I'm not above it. I would 100% eat myself because I love hot dogs. I haven't had one in a long time, at least not like an Oscar Mayer or something from the grocery store.
Yeah.
I tend to go artisan sausage these days.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, I really don't eat red meat at all unless I know where it came from. My body doesn't like all the hormones that are in the food here. And to stop feeling like garbage, I stopped eating like grocery store market meat.
Makes a huge difference.
Big time. Very big time. And like we don't buy pasta. We don't buy bread. Like we don't buy food in this house. We buy ingredients and we make food. I'm going to be baking some bread tonight. No lie.
Yeah. I think that is the one thing that I think in the future is going to be like, they're going to say, oh, that was the generation that was like the processed food generation. And look at all these things that have disappeared now that those foods are gone. I think that moment's coming in the future. Right.
I do too. I definitely do. Thank you, Julia Childs, for being at the very front of that fight. Chicken. Well, I do have one more question for you.
Sure.
Luke did mention relish.
Oh.
And I will totally judge someone on whether they prefer dill or sweet pickle relish. Ready, go.
Gee, I don't even know what the difference is between the two. So I would say
see,
sweet.
Now I don't. Now you're a spy. Now I can't trust
Sweet.
you.
I'm going to say sweet.
Okay. Now I really can't trust you because you're wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I don't know. I can't remember the last time I had relish.
Wow, you're so close to Chicago. That surprises me.
Well, we grew up in Detroit. We didn't put greens on our hot dogs.
Yeah, Coney Island's a little bit different than Detroit. You
onions,
get some tall, chocolate milk and.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Hey, I've been places. I've announced women's roller derby at the Shriner building there in Detroit.
Have you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you must be a Lafayette, Coney Island guy because there's American and Lafayette in Detroit, and that's another thing. And Lafayette is the chocolate milk like this, and that's that's my parents had me as a kid. So I'm a Lafayette guy. But sorry, I duffed the relish question.
That's okay. Obviously, no one's perfect. So
yeah.
Brad, you're a ruler, man. Thank you so much for joining me, and thanks for carving out so much of this time.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Hopefully, I haven't set the bar so high to where people expect content of this level all the time, but I am going to do my best.
Oh man, you're gonna do it. I know you are, because you're a great guy, and people want to hang with you and listen to you. So you're gonna do just fine. And best of luck
Thank
to you.
you. I appreciate that very much.
And I'm honored. I'm honored that you asked me to be on this. I really am. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I couldn't believe you responded to my email. Now it's all downhill.
Hey man, we're friends for life now, buddy.
Yep, one of us is in deep trouble now. We'll figure out who as time goes on.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, maybe we'll switch back and forth. All right.
That's fair. All right, man. Thank you so much. And coming up here in a minute, we've got more stuff and things. Well, I mean, that was cool. I just got to sit down with a really cool, chill, truly influential, and humble dude, Brad Richards. Look him up. Or don't. You just met him, I guess. Well, when you see him out and about, that's the guy you're supposed to thank for designing really dope motorcycles. And I'm really grateful for the time. That is a good feeling. If there's someone that you're like, Dump Truck, you should totally interview this person, call the hotline. Let me know. 833-474-2010. And without further ado, I guess since we're talking about it, let's go to the hotline a little bit. Let's see here. My friend Sabrina gave a call, and I absolutely love that woman. We've been through a lot of stuff together over the years. She's one of my favorite human beings, and yeah. And here's this.
Happy birthday, Dump Truck. I'm calling to tell you that I love you. You're my hell yeah brother forever. Yeah. And I'm stoked to check out your podcast, dude. This is Sabrina Savvy Sabs. You're a homie.
You don't have to explain yourself.
Oh, fuck. The West Coast. That doesn't rhyme. But anyways, I love you, dude. Have a great birthday. I can't wait to tune in. Hell yeah.
Brother. She's easily one of the funniest people that I know. And if you have seen the Moto Maidens, something that Harley-Davidson has been behind, which is a really rad and beautiful and feral group of women from all over the country that get together on purpose several times a year to go ride motorcycles and do cool stuff. A lot of times they contribute to their local communities as well. So if you haven't, follow the Moto Maidens. My homie Sabrina is there. Thank you so much, love, for the birthday wishes. I cannot wait to see you. I guess I should probably call you and figure out when that's going to happen. But I know it's going to be soon because that's how we do. You're amazing. Thanks. I know this is a voice I haven't heard in a while.
Dump Truck, this is Jake at Barnstorm.
He's yelling at me.
Just wanted to say, hey, man, hope you're doing well. Pumped to see where the podcast goes. Wishing you all the best. Talk soon, man. Love you.
Hell yeah, dude. I love you, Jake. You're a really rad guy. And that guy is, his whole family have just been absolutely wonderful to me over the years, whether it be his dad, quote unquote, making me drink tequila, and there was no making. There was just missing tequila at the end of the party. Or Jake, let me ride nuts to butts on that really amazing FXR that he did for Hot Bike Tour. Either way, the family loves me. They got a soft spot for the Dump Truck, and I've got a soft spot for Barnstorm and Barnstorm Cycles. If you don't know who they are, look them up. They on that East Coast doing big things. Thanks for the love, man. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I make you proud. We should probably have you on the show at some point to see what's going on over there in Worcester, Massachusetts. I don't know. You'll have to make fun of me on the next voicemail and re-educate me how to say that town again. What else do we got here? Oh, we got Miss Oshi Go-Go called in again. Always a good time.
Hey, Dump Truck. It's Oshi Go-Go calling in. And here's what I want information on. I would like to know with video, because you can find all kinds of information on the internet, but I want to see some videos about how's the best way to clean stainless pipes, specifically Sawicki.
Oh.
All right.
Well, I may not be with WikiSpeed anymore, but I know that I've recorded at least 2 videos on how to maintain your exhaust pipe for them. So I would go maybe jump in their DMs and hit them up for the video. And if that doesn't do it for you, maybe I should just do a video myself. If there is a need, I should supply the solution. Yes. Maybe. Possibly. What is that camera doing? I don't know. Technical stuff. It's just such a good time. And yeah, this is going to be our last call of the evening. The other calls you heard during the show with
Dump
Brad.
truck, it's Swiss. Literally calling you while I'm driving a forklift around. But it's Groundhog's Day. I want to know, do you enjoy the movie Groundhog's Day? And if not, why? Because it is a great movie.
Yeah, it is.
And also, I just want to say I can't wait to see you in a couple weeks. I love you and I miss you. I can't wait to have a dance-off on the floor of Mama Tried with you.
Yeah.
All right. Later, buddy.
Swiss, you are the man. Dude, I absolutely love that movie. And like, so one of my favorite things about the film, let's be right. I mean, Mr. Sir Bill Murray Esquire the Third is in that film. So it must be elevated as such. And that movie really it warns you of the repetitious nature of our lives and how it could destroy us if we don't take charge of our lives and break free from the day-to-day, from the rat race, from the death scrolling. Disconnect. You know, easy for me to say. I really feel like that's what I get from that film. Not only is it damn hilarious, but it's like, wow, like how don't you go insane doing the exact same thing every single day over and over? If you look back at your life, you're going, whoa, I'm a little bit guilty of that. Then shake it up, look in there and find a moment of that will allow for some randomness and do something spontaneous. You'll be happy about it. Or just ride your motorcycle more. I mean, if you're always doing that, and that's the thing that you do all the time every day, that means you're bringing joy to yourself every day. And that's the kind of repetition I'm here for. Probably not what you expected, but bam! Live your life. Don't get caught in a rut, especially if it's self-inflicted. Like, do more. Learn a language, or at least act like it. You know, go jump rope. Like, do stuff. Go outside. Go outside. That's a big part of it. And Swiss, we're absolutely gonna have a dance off. That's the thing. It's gonna be ridiculous. You know, I don't know if either of us can dance, but we're definitely gonna try. I hope you guys have had a great time today. I had a wonderful time getting to put the show together, speaking with Brad, listening to the voicemails. Please keep those coming in. 833-474-2010. This has been episode 2 of the I Speak Good podcast. My name is Dump Truck, and please, before you leave, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It's all free to do, and it helps your boy out. This has been wonderful. Till next time, work it out. I speak good.